Welcome to the podcast, Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, where it's all about discovering the thoughts that get you in the mood, the thoughts that get you out of the mood, and how creating a deeper connection with yourself creates a deeper connection with your spouse. I'm your coach, Shelly Anderson, coaching you through life, love, and intimacy. This is episode number 208. Positive practices to promote intimacy. Okay, so for this episode, I am just going to offer up about 12 ideas of different practices you can inject into your life already, into the relationship to help promote intimacy on a different level. Right? So when we are able to add closeness and other elements into the relationship outside of the bedroom, it really helps lay a wonderful foundation for what happens inside of the bedroom. And so sometimes if we're like, man, I need a little help in this area, or I'm not quite feeling like we're connected or in the mood, we don't need to put all of these in right away or even ever. But the goal is to pick one that maybe as you're listening today, you're like, okay, I think this might be the one for me. Not because it seems easy, like it's the easiest thing for you, but perhaps there's something deep within you that's like, if I tried to do this, it might make a difference, right? So we're looking to pick one that would actually help us develop as a human being in an adult relationship. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you hear some of these ideas and see if you can pick at least one that you could start to incorporate into your life. Okay, number one, effective communication. And this also has to do with frequent communication, right? Like we don't always need to sit down and have only conversations that are on big topics, although we are going to need that from time to time. But this is more of like the daily check-in, right? Are you checking in with your spouse? Are you seeing how their day is going? Are you guys able to share some of your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences throughout the day? Are you able to be open and honest? Because if we are able to do these things, that does build a great foundation of trust. Going along with that, as you are maybe talking about some of the things throughout your day, I would love if we could be mindful of also not expecting our spouse to solve everything that we share with them, right? So I wonder if we are able to communicate that, right? Like, oh, okay, just listen to what happened. I don't need you to solve anything, but just listen to what happened today. I love being able to communicate in this way. It's super effective. It kind of lays the groundwork of, hey, I just need you to be a good listener and to be there for me. I don't need you to solve, right? Most adults can actually solve their own problems. There are times we need to sit down and collaborate and brainstorm and work on it together as husband and wife. But a lot of times we don't. We can just solve things on our own. So being able to say that right up front at the beginning can really put the other spouse at ease of like, hey, I'm just going to be there for my spouse. I don't need to come up with 10 solutions right now. Okay, number two, quality time. And this is something that also needs to be considered on a daily basis, right? It doesn't need to be quantity, right? Sometimes we're busy. When we have careers, when we have lots of kids and the kids have activities, times are busy. So this is going to be about quality time, that there's an understanding that when you are able to connect, you are able to spend those few minutes checking in with one another, that counts, that's quality time as you're doing it. If let's say you only have about 7 minutes to check in with each other each day during this time, this season of your life, let's make those 7 minutes count. Let's not have our phones out. Let's not be trying to multitask on a million things, but let's send a message to our spouse that we are invested for that 7 minutes. It counts. This is an opportunity for each of us to say, I want to make this quality time meaningful. What can I do to make it meaningful? And maybe it's going to be that you and your spouse are going to do something that is necessary. Like, let's say, prepare the dinner. You're going to do that together, but you're going to make that time together count. It's going to be quality time. So you could find moments for this sometime in the morning, maybe in the afternoon, evening, or before bed. You don't have to do it all of those times, but pick one. Pick one and put just a little bit of effort to make that moment meaningful. Okay. Number 3, express gratitude. I really love this one. It's one of my favorites because we don't realize that gratitude is what we call a bridging emotion, right? Sometimes if we're feeling one way and maybe it's negative and we want to end up over here, we don't always know how to get there, or we feel like it's too big of a leap. Gratitude is one of those bridging emotions that really helps us get from point A to point B. We feel good in the process as we really start to think about what we're grateful for, but then to be able to express it to our spouse, such a beautiful thing. So I would invite you to think about acknowledging something small, right? It doesn't always have to be these grand gestures or these big things, but pay attention to your spouse and look for something small that perhaps you're like, oh my gosh, I never really pointed that out before. I never really paid attention to that before, but I actually really do appreciate this little thing. And make it a point to actually express your gratitude for it. This really creates such a positive environment, and it sets up an example of a really good cycle to get into. And you're also modeling it for your spouse and for your children. When they're able to see you expressing the good things, the good qualities of your spouse, it helps them to look for the good qualities in their parents and in their friends and other people that they know, and to be able to express it. Again, it could just be like a simple sentence. And or you can make it super fun if you have the time and do something creative with it to express that gratitude. But if not, just simply sharing it and saying it often does wonders. Okay, number 4, acts of kindness. This is a fun one because we can kind of choose the way that we want to do it. Maybe we're going to think about a favorite meal or dessert that our spouse really likes, and we're going to put a little effort into making that. Or maybe we just leave a note, we hide a note, or maybe we make a note obvious so that they don't miss it. Or maybe we know that there's something that's been weighing on them, like something that needs to get done around the house, and it's just been kind of dragging them down a bit. Maybe we just go do that thing, right? We take it off their plate. These little acts of kindness just show that we're thinking about them, that we are aware of their stresses sometimes, or their little quirks and their intricacies, and that they are on our mind. And that can really help set such a wonderful tone on an emotional level, which is very foundational to the sexual aspect as well. Okay, number 5, shared goals. We all have our own goals as individuals, but what about shared goals? This would be a great opportunity to think about discussing one short-term goal and one long-term goal with a simple plan to carry it out, right? I love to be able to think about dreams. What are your guys' dreams that you share together? Maybe you've already discussed a plan of how to make a certain dream come to be. Maybe in this discussion, as you talk about a shared goal, you take the next step that gets you closer to accomplishing whatever dream that is. Maybe you guys are saving up for a deposit on a house. Maybe it's for a certain vacation. Maybe it's to invest some money for your business or whatever it is. just discuss like what is the next step and how can we take it. Being able to do this creates teamwork. It creates that feeling like we're on the same team. We have a shared purpose and we're willing to work on it together. So, the other thing about that is when we are able to talk about our dreams, it seems so much more possible. When we're able to say, let's take the next step, it makes it a reality. And then you end up having a lot of gratitude and appreciation towards your spouse for acknowledging the dreams and keeping the dream alive, keeping it fresh, keeping it at the forefront, not just a dream that sits in the back burner in the back of our minds that we just allow to die. Let's keep our dreams alive. This is so fun. It's invigorating, it's enlivening, and it can really inject that excitement and that fun back into the relationship. So, as we share our goals and discuss shared goals, we can really keep the dreams alive. Number six, physical affection, affection that is non sexual. This is so important, especially for the wives. The women need to know that they have value outside of just in a sexual way, right? That their arm matters, that their arm can get the attention of their husband too, and not just all of the erogenous zones and hot spots. So, hugs, kisses, holding hands, cuddling, these things enhance emotional intimacy and can get those good hormones, those feel good and love hormones on our side. We can get those hormones on board. If we never do these things and we never have physical affection that's non-sexual, it's harder to want to jump into the sexual type of touch. It seems more abrupt, but it can seem much more natural if we lead with physical affection. And I know that for the husbands, this is also important to receive non sexual physical affection from their wife. Hey, I see you. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, I want to reach out. I want to be near you. I want to touch you. Us humans need that. We are created to have physical touch and interactions with other humans. So we can capitalize that and say, this is a good thing to work on, and it's foundational for the other type of sexual intimacy. Okay. Number seven, conflict resolution. Oh man, this is such a good one. I could go on and on about this one. But if we're talking about positive practices and something that's like easy to insert into our lives, what if we started to look at this concept as not something super big all the time, but like, hey, I'm going to become a problem solver and I'm going to try and solve one little problem each day, right? Something small, something little. I could do that. It is so much more empowering to become a problem solver than to become, should I say, it's better than remaining a problem complainer. We do not want to stay in the state of just complaining. We need to take action. We need to be proactive in solving problems because this really helps. If we have one problem that's minor and it never gets solved, when the next one comes, we're now piling on the stressors, we're piling on the problems. And before too long, we're going to start to feel very weighed down. Like there are too many problems. We can't solve any of them. We're too deep down into the mud to be able to climb out or get out of underneath all that. But if we just have the mindset of like, you know what, we can do one thing, solve one little problem each day, then we can really keep ourselves afloat. We can keep ourselves positive and much more available when some of the bigger problems do show up that do require more from us. So if we were to say, hey, I'm just going to solve one little problem each day, then that could really help us get into that higher part of our brain and use our thinking skills instead of just being weighed down with the negative emotions, the negative feelings that are going to keep us stuck. So we can just take a constructive, developmental approach to that, and we can find easy solutions quickly so that things don't get worse. And so also that our resentment doesn't start to increase towards our spouse. Like, oh, they're never helping to solve problems. They're just complaining about everything. They're just big complainers, but they're not solving anything. So we can flip that around and pivot and become conflict resolutionists. Okay. Number 8, regular check-ins. And I think this is probably going to be a little more geared towards the problems that are a little bigger. And so if there is something that needs a little bit more discussion, more brainstorming, more back and forth between spouses, this is going to be that regular State of the Union discussion, right? Where we are going to put some time aside for it. And we're going to talk about those things that need a little of attention and come up with a plan to improve things. I don't know if this is widespread knowledge, but this is one of the biggest contributors to successful marriages, conflict resolution. So if we're able to just think about that and say, oh, I think I would like to incorporate this a little bit more into the relationship, into our lives. Maybe we're going to have this State of the Union once a month as spouses and really have that, whatever, 1 hour check-in, however long it takes. Maybe it's not that long. Maybe it's only 30 minutes. That being able to keep that in your lives, in the relationship, can really, really help things from spiraling out of control. Number 9, this is a fun one. Support each other's interests. This is one that gets severely neglected in marriages. And it's not that it's done on purpose, right? We don't set out to go, I want to destroy my spouse's hobbies. I want to destroy their fun, right? We often just have our own reasons why maybe we're not supporting our spouse in their free time and their downtime and their self-care time. And we may find that we are keeping them from it and giving them some guilt trips or giving them some criticisms if they are trying to work out, having some time for their hobbies. But what if we just flip that around and say, hey, you know what? It's actually really healthy for each spouse to have their own hobbies that still makes them who they are, a unique individual. And we could encourage each other's hobbies, right? This allows each spouse to continue to feel like themselves in the relationship, like they're not drowning in certain roles, and the roles that they have come to love about themselves are now going at the wayside, and they're sad about that and mad and angry and resentful. But we don't have to fall for that. We can keep individual respect high for ourselves and for our spouse and say it's important that each of us have some of that downtime. And the beautiful thing is that as each spouse does have some time to dive into their hobbies, there's personal growth that happens there for both spouses. And that is usually a really good thing also for the marriage. I think going along with this, we want to make sure that we don't dive so deep into our hobbies that we go to an extreme where we're not spending any time with our families or our spouse, right? We want to make sure that this is a very healthy balance. But usually when I start working with couples, this has been neglected. It has fallen by the wayside and it shows up. Okay, number 10, Laughter and fun. Yes. We need laughter and fun. I love that on my scrolls, my social medias, they know that I like laughter. So I have several comedians and just these short clips from multiple comedians show up in my feed. And I love to listen to them because I'm able to just get that quick burst of laughter and enjoyment. It's funny. I feel good when I'm listening to them. And it's such an easy way to add that fun into your life. You can do it for yourself. This is a gift you can give yourself. Fun and laughter. And yes, you can do it with your spouse, but let's not forget that we can also do it for ourselves. How can you add some more humor and laughter and playfulness and fun into your daily lives, into your daily interactions? I love to put on, I have a playlist. It's Shelly's 90s hip hop playlist. And I love to put this playlist on when I've got stuff that's got to be done, the chores that I usually find boring. And I love to make it fun. And the way I make it fun is listening to hip hop from the 90s because I love it. It gets me in a good mood. I can do all my chores with some happiness, some fun, some laughter. I can pull off some dance moves, the ones I used to do in the 90s, and it is all good. So, how can we do that? How can we add some fun to the daily things, the daily grind, so our loads can be lightened just a bit? Ask yourself whenever you're doing a task that seems mundane or boring, how can I make this more fun? And your brain will probably deliver you a few answers and ideas. It's awesome. So jump in on those ideas when your brain gives it to you. Number 11, limit distractions. Man, this is a hard one in today's world, but so needed, so valuable. When you are interacting with your family, with your spouse, think about what distractions are there. Are they interfering with the connection? If you only have 7 minutes a day to really connect with your spouse, is your phone out during that time? I sure hope not. In our family, I know I've mentioned this before, but we have this thing called a phone home. It's been so helpful, right? Like that's where the phones go. We don't need to have phones in hands at all times. If you're expecting a certain phone call, go check the phone every now and then, or make sure your ringer's on so you can hear it. But being able to put the phone down and not live with the anxiety that comes from constantly checking the phone is a very healthy thing. And it also sends a message to one another, right? Like, I'm listening. I'm not distracted. I'm not multitasking. I'm here. I'm in it. And those are positive, wonderful messages to send just by making sure that distractions are limited or out of the way. If you're wondering which times to maybe limit the devices, think about meal times and your check-in times, right? Or maybe it's going to be bedtime with your kids, right? We're not going to have the phone if we're doing the bedtime ritual, right? Because kids are going to pick up on that. Like, oh, my mommy can't even put her phone down while she puts me to bed. But if we can just put things down for a little while, we're sending some awesome messages. I'm here. I'm in it. I love our time together. Okay, and the last one, number 12, mindfulness and presence. One of my favorite quotes is, perhaps the best present is to be present. I love this one. What a gift. It's a gift we give to ourselves. It's a gift we can give to our spouse. our children and anyone that we interact with, to be present. If they're sharing something with us, are we listening? Are we responding to the things that they're actually saying? If they look like they're not feeling good, are we present to that? Are we aware? Do we give them a hug and bring them in and tell them we love them? This can include responding to things that we see, but also asking questions. If you don't know how to be present, start asking questions. Man, the person on the other side of your questions is really going to appreciate, oh wow, like they care. They care about me. They're thinking about me. Look at, they're asking these questions. They want to know what my life is like, what I'm going through, how my day was. That is so valuable when we're able to connect on those little deeper ways. They matter. They can make a huge difference. So ask questions. If you don't know how to do those things, ask questions. We can always get wonderful information when we start asking the people that we love questions. So give it a try. So this next week, I want you to really think about the ones that we've talked about and ask yourself, which one could I choose to try and incorporate this week on a daily basis? I don't want you to think about, oh, my spouse needs to work on that one, right? This is supposed to be self-reflection. We take a look at what we're doing so that we can improve as a person, so that it has a ripple out effect, right? It has a positive effect on our spouse, on the marriage, on our kids. But that won't happen unless we start with ourselves. We have to look within. So I want you to pick one that you think would help you grow and develop and progress as an individual, right? Sometimes we have big goals in our minds. Sometimes we've set New Year's resolutions in the beginning of the year. Pick one of these that would help you with your own big picture goals, with your own resolutions, right? To help move you forward, because that is an amazing journey and it feels so much more fulfilling when we do things from that mindset rather than, oh, well, my spouse just wants me to do this thing, so that life is better for them. We've got to be invested for our own reasons, because then when we try to implement some of these things, it's based in our own motivation, our own desire. And that can be very lasting and very sustaining. So let's make sure we are doing things for the right reasons and get to the heart of it. So remember, the more you restore this type of intimacy with yourself, the more you can restore it with your spouse. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you will join us again next time.